Welcome to toy-polloi. No Legos were harmed in the making of this video.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and today we're going to be taking a look at restoring and repairing this vintage Action Man space speeder. Now this was very kindly sent in to me by Simon Rhodes, who has actually sent some stuff in before. If you've watched my video on restoring the vintage Action Man Solar Hurricane, Simon sent in the bulk of that, so this is another one from him. He said that he found it at a charity shop and says it's about 75% complete, and since he sent it in I've been sort of tracking down the final few missing parts, and I now think I have everything I need to get this repaired. It's a pretty sort of weird vehicle, and it's taken me a little while to work out how I'm going to go about sort of repairing it and also finding the right parts, because some parts like this, these are sort of wing sections, there's a big bit missing off the end here. It took me a little while to work out if I could sort of find something or find a replacement. And actually speaking to another Action Man collector I know, Nick, and his son Jackson, he just happened to have a spare one of these that wasn't broken, so I managed to find a replacement for that. But there are other pieces on this that have some damage that needs fixing. Now when it arrived, Simon said that he'd just sort of picked it up at the charity shop and hadn't really sort of looked at it, and I actually opened up the main part of this toy, which you can see there in the background, and tucked inside that rather neatly was this, which was the Space Captain rubber spacesuit. Now remarkably, after 40 years of being tucked away, this hasn't perished. These are made out of latex rubber. I've got a video on this exact spacesuit, and I was amazed to find this inside and in remarkably good condition. It needed a little bit of a clean and also a little bit of talcum powder put in it to sort of free up some of the parts that stuck together, but to find something like that stuck inside a toy, it was quite an amazing thing to sort of behold. So a really nice little thing. I'm going to clean that up a bit more and actually put that on an Action Man figure. But the first thing we need to do with this is give it a very good clean. As I say, it is pretty filthy. I'm guessing it's been stuck in someone's loft for a very long time. You can see the amount of grime and dirt there is on this. This is probably one of the cleaner pieces, but it's really filthy. So everything needs a very good clean. So to do that, it's just going to be a case of hot soapy water and a toothbrush, and basically I can submerge everything on this toy into water, because there's no metal parts as far as I'm aware, and there's also no electronics, so it doesn't really matter what you do to it. And the stickers should survive, although we do actually have a replacement set of stickers. I'll be swapping those out, and then once everything's clean we can start repairing it. There are a good few sort of damaged areas. If we just take a look at this is the bottom part of the space speeder, you can see there's quite a crack on a piece there. I'm not quite even sure even if we can get inside to put glue inside that, but a bit of plastic weld or something on that might just be enough to fix that. If we can't get it apart, then everything is pretty worn, so I might do a little bit of sanding down on some of these areas, but you can see just the dirt on this. It's thick with dust, and I'm going to say definitely in a loft. Looking at the state of it, I think it's just been stored sort of for that long without anything much happening to it. But I reckon we can get it tidied up. So first thing, let's give it a good wash. even after a good clean in hot soapy water, there are still a few marks you can see that I wasn't able to get off. These look like little sort of bit of paint scuffs maybe down this side, and there's some on the front here. So to remove those, I'm just going to use a bit of kitchen towel and some lighter fluid, and that should easily take those last marks off. So I'm just going to give this a once over, and we'll tidy up the last few pieces, and then we can start to sort of repairing the damage that's on this vehicle. The first area to fix is actually these two sort of flat surfaces on the back of the main part of the space speeder. The deck part of the space speeder sort of slides on to these two sort of lips on either side, and both of these have cracked at some point. You can see here that there's a nasty crack running quite a long way along, and when this was stored, it was stored in such a way that this piece was bent downwards, so you can see that it's quite a gap left there. So we're going to bend this piece back up to where it should be, and then we need to put some plastic weld along that crack, and that should fuse these two pieces back together and hold everything in place. It's also cracked on the other side. This one is not such a bad crack, and again, it's not been left in such an awkward position, so it's got a little bit of a sort of a bow to it, but I think we can glue that one back as well, again using plastic weld. Plastic weld works incredibly well with this sort of harder plastic that they used on these Action Man vehicles. So yeah, simple thing to do really, but it will take a little time, so I'm going to have to hold it in place until the plastic weld has set, so that this has got a nice firm bond. And plastic weld, basically you use capillary action to get it to sort of pulled into the crack, so I'm just going to get some on a brush, drop it onto this, and it will get pulled in, and then I'm going to have to hold it for sort of 10 minutes, make sure that this is set nicely and in the right position. Then we'll do the other side as well. Now that those two pieces have had time to set, you can see it's actually fixed fairly strongly. There's still a little bit of a bow to this left-hand side one, but that should go with time, especially if we put the deck back in place. And that's what these two pieces hold on. You have to slide this piece underneath those, slide it forward, and it hooks sort of on two bits of plastic at the front section of the deck, and then there's two other bits at the back that also hook onto it. But as this is still slightly bowed, I'm going to have to sort of shift that back piece just with a pair of tweezers, and then push the deck on. So you can see I'm just sort of raising up the bit that we've glued back in place so that the next part of the deck slides in, and then we can slide that in place, and then that hooks under at the front. You just have to slightly push that piece down, push it under, and it will lock in place. And I'm reckoning over time that having this deck back on will bend this piece of plastic up slightly, so in the future this deck will be a lot easier to take off and put back on again. But at the moment it is held on nice and firmly, and as you can see, those pieces that we have glued are completely hidden by this deck plate, so you can't see any of the glue marks, which is why I wasn't too worried about how it looked before I sort of did this. But you can see that is now sort of nice and firmly back in place. The next two things that need repairing on this both need stuff making from scratch. If we look at the back part of the space speeder, this panel here, which is the deck as I was showing you, actually should have two sort of wing parts towards the rear of it. You can see them here clearly on this photo. This is from the Action Man HQ website, and these are what the sort of jet parts attach onto. There are lots of areas on this ship that have these sort of wings, so you can see this is one on the sort of one of the side panels, and these just sort of clip on like that. So what we've got to do is make a new set of those to go here. And it's not going to be particularly easy because this plastic is quite thin. There's also another wheel that is able to sort of clip on in the middle. So I'm just going to sort of have to well, wing it is a good term for it, and make these wings out of some 2mm styrene. Now the holes in the side of these little jets is actually 4mm at one end and 2mm at another, so I've got to sort of layer it up and make something. I'm just going to sort of go do it by eye until I get something that works. There's another area that we need to repair as well on this. If we turn this ship around, you can see at the front there's a hole, and that's actually where a sort of little loop should be that I guess you're supposed to be able to put a bit of string through or something like that. I'll zoom in on this picture here so you can see there's a tiny little sort of loop part that has snapped off, and again I'm going to make that out of some 2mm styrene sheet. I actually have black styrene as well as the sort of white stuff, and the black It's not going to match perfectly because this is actually sort of a very dark blue, but it will sort of match as close as can be. Really, with this, there's no sort of rules or sort of ways of doing it. I'm just going to make it up as I go along and use these photos as a reference to see, you know, what I need to do. But you can see it's quite complicated stuff, so I'm just going to get cutting and sort of see what I can make. And here's what I ended up making. As you can see, we've now got two new sort of attachment points for these engines. These are made out of just some 2mm styrene with a 1mm bit of styrene stuck on the bottom just as an extra bit of support. I've also added a little bar across the back here. That's mainly to keep this sort of engine in place, because you want these to be held on quite tightly. So that just enables that to sort of clip on, and you can see they're very firmly held in place. It's been a sort of awkward job to do because you need to avoid a lot of things. This rear wheel, if I turn this over, you can see this rear wheel sits sort of in between the two new panels that I've made, so you can't have too much support material coming in because this has to clip in and sort of unclip. But I think the overall effect is that it works really quite nicely. Obviously at the moment I haven't painted them, these are just in the white styrene plastic. I will take these out into the garage and maybe just give a quick coat of spray paint on them to try and match this grey, but for now I'm going to leave these as is because I want to get on with some of the other repairs. But you can see it does work. I thought I might have to add a little extra bit of support of styrene over the top of this, but actually now that that has plastic welded in place, it feels really very firm, so I'm not going to add any more sort of extra pieces. I think it's nice and clean as it is at the moment, and as you can see it does work, and it means that these engines will fit on when you have the space speeder in this mode. I'm not quite sure what this mode is called. All of these modes have different names, but yeah, in this mode those engines now fit on quite nicely, which means I can now move on to the next job, which is making the little loop piece that goes here out of some black 2mm styrene. The end result with the little tab on the front, I'm pretty pleased with it. It does the job. You can see it does look like a loop again. It's not perfect, and I may come back and give this a little coat of paint. At the moment you can see it is black, but because the blue plastic is so dark, you don't really notice that that's any different. I've also given a quick coat of grey paint to these little fins that I've added at the back. Obviously you can see this sort of deck plate has yellowed a bit, so the paint I've got looks very grey. And at the moment we are still in lockdown, so I've not been able to pop down to my local model shop to find something more accurate. So I think for the moment I'm just going to leave this as is. It's not perfect, but it does the job, and it means we can get the rest of this vehicle put together. So for now, let's leave those as that. And if lockdown ever does go away and the shops reopen, I'll pop down and see if I can get something that is a closer match. But for now, that will do. Now the next thing to do is actually start to put some stickers on, and luckily the actionman HQ website sells some reproduction stickers for this vehicle, so I've got a set of those. It actually comes with very few stickers. There's a lot in the middle which are just for sort of control panels, and these should actually be glow in the dark. And as well as producing these stickers, they do produce glow in the dark version, so you can see I have these here, and this is what I'm going to be applying to the ship. Now these stripes go on the two wing sections, and what should happen is that you should get two of these wings, and you'll have a left and a right version. I've actually got sort of two of the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick these stickers on the other side of these, so I'm going to end up with sort of a matching pair. It's not the right way of doing it, but it should work out quite fine. I could remove one of these stickers to make it look sort of equal, but I think I might as well just attach these the wrong way around, and it will be fine. And we'll put all of these stickers on the rest of it as well. You can see these stripes should go on these little sort of engine pieces. These have already got them on, so I'm not going to be using those, but all sorts of the other pieces. Let's get them cut out, and we'll stick them on and see what the Space Speeder looks like. I just thought I'd see if I could actually remove one of these original stickers without damaging it. And do you know what? I can. I've squirted a whole load of lighter fluid underneath it, and the glue has given away quite nicely. So I'm actually able to remove one of these original ones, which means I can swap these over, and it should be fine. I was quite impressed that the sticker would come off this sort of easily after all these years. It's a rubberized sticker, so it's yeah, got quite a lot of give to it. Look at that. One original sticker come off in very good condition. So I'm actually going to end up using the original ones of these on the side of the ship, because I've got the other ones on the broken versions of these wings, but that's very pleasing. Okay, so I've now got all the bits with all the correct stickers on. There are sort of minimal stickers, I would say. You can see here, this is one of these sort of control panels at the back. These do glow in the dark. There's really very few stickers on it. I think if I was doing this today, I'd probably try and put a few more stickers on it, certainly on the sides of these pieces and on the sort of front nose cone. It may be I come back to this and do some custom stickers, because it just has a lot of sort of blank areas that I think you could do a lot with. But anyway, we've got all the bits ready, so let's put this together in the configurations. There are 4 configurations that are sort of illustrated in the manual, so I'm going to go through all of those, and we'll sort of see what each one looks like. Some are better than others. I'm going to start off with the Super Space Speeder, and then we'll move on to the rest. So here you go, you can see this is the Super Space Speeder configuration. Some of these sort of configurations are not that convincing to me, but I guess as a kid it didn't really matter, because you would just sort of fly this thing around. This one's a little bit odd because you've got one wheel at the back that you can sort of rest the vehicle on, and then the wings and the wheels sort of at the front stick out to the side. So it's a strange configuration, but it does look a bit like a spaceship. It does come with a gun that doesn't actually fire missiles. The missiles, you can see, just sort of hold into holes at the back there. But it does have a gun, so at least it looks like it could fire. But these guns were never supposed to fire. So let's turn it into the next configuration. This is C Mission Craft mode, and the reason you get a C Mission Craft mode is because the basis of this toy was from a GI.Joe vehicle, which was a submarine and sort of sea vehicle. So they basically took that, added some more bits and tried to make it a space vehicle. So this is C Mission Craft mode. You can see it's a bit odd because even with his helmet on, he sort of can't actually see where he's going. You can't raise his head up far enough. He's held in by this plastic strap over the back. So this is probably the oddest of the configurations. It also means you get left with all of these pieces off to one side that are not used in this. Some of them you're supposed to be able to sort of store under the deck, but there's so many of them you can't store all of these pieces inside the vehicle. So yeah, that's one of the odder modes. This mode is sort of a landing craft version 1. It's a bit like a motorbike, I guess. You've got a single wheel at the front and then two rear wheels hidden inside the sort of what are the wings of the ship. This mode actually can hold two figures. So at the moment I've just got one action man pointing forwards. You can have a second person on the back, and I guess you could rearrange the gun if you wanted and have the gun pointing backwards. So it's a sort of two-man version of the Space Speeder. Still looks a little bit odd to me, but it does kind of work. There is this sort of secondary version of the lander, which is basically just moving the engines around, so not much of a difference. I think you're supposed to have the gun here. Really, you can do what you like with this toy, which I guess was the whole point of it. You could sort of mix and match and push these sort of pieces in as you saw fit, because there's a few different sort of places that everything fits onto. I'm going to put it back into the sort of main Space Speeder configuration now. And there we have it. That is the Space Speeder all finished. I've taken what was a sort of pile of broken pieces and managed to turn it into quite a nice displayable piece. Now for me, this ship is nowhere near as cool as the Solar Hurricane. It's a nice toy, but I just think the Solar Hurricane is such a sort of iconic design, and that was the one I had as a kid. I remember playing with one of these as a child, but it wasn't my sort of favourite of the toys, but it's still a good toy, and it's still been a great fun sort of piece to work on. And it's nice to be able to take something that has obviously sort of had a good life and been well played with and sort of give it a second go. I think the fixes I've done are certainly good enough for this thing to go back on display. As I say, once lockdown is finished, I'm going to see if I can find some better paint to repaint those new fins at the back, but at the moment they don't stand out, so I think it will do the job. I do need to say a massive thank you to Simon Rhodes, who very kindly sent this in. It was a great thing to find in a charity shop, and also a big thank you to Nick and Jackson, who just happened to have the missing wing piece that I needed to get this finished. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. Today we're going to be looking at fixing and repairing this vintage Action Man Space Speeder. Now this was very kindly sent in to me by Simon Rhodes. He said it's about 75% complete. It's something that he found at a charity shop, and since he sent it in, I've actually been sort of hunting down the final few missing parts, and I think I now have everything that is needed to get it repaired. It's in a pretty sort of always one. It's always in.